Hello everyone and welcome to this new tutorial. In this video we will see how to design an hotel booking app and we'll mainly focus on the UI. Let's start by designing the first screen and let's focus on the first section where we'll have an image of the hotel and a couple of buttons. Let's start by creating an empty screen. Let's select the screen tool and pick a new screen. Now from the details panel of the screen, we can add an app bar. Let's click on the brush button and modify the app bar. For example, let's add a new title, and we can modify the style of this title as we like. Now we select the screen and change the orientation of the layout to be a column. To create a section with the image and the actions, let's start by adding an icon button. And modify it as we like. For example, we can maybe adjust the size of the icon. And we can change the icon that we want to display depending on what action we want the user to be able to do. Let's also pick a color that we like for the button. Let's now duplicate this button and let's pick a second icon for the second button with another action that we like to display. Now let's select both these widgets and let's group them and put them in a row. Now we add the wrapper and we pick a container. This container will function as a background for this group. We can reorganize the layout of the row, change the spacing to be in between, and now we can customize the container to make the background look as we like. For example, let's add some radius. And also let's add an image to make it the background of this row. Now that we designed this section, we can put it inside the screen and change the width sizing to expand, so it will take the entire length of the screen. And the height, we can pick a value that we like. Let's now select the entire screen and add a padding wrapper, so we can add a little bit of spacing in between the border of the screen and the content of the screen. We can adjust the value of the padding as we like, depending on the design that we want to achieve. Now let's select again our image and add some padding inside, so we also create some spacing in between the two icon buttons and the border of the image. We can keep customizing this section of the screen, for example, by adding a shadow. Now let's design a section of the screen where we have the name of the hotel and some information about it, like the address and the reviews. Let's start by adding a text widget and type the name of the hotel. Now let's customize this text as we like. I'll pick the same font as before and try to find a size that I like. I will put this text inside the screen and change the width to expand. And also adjust the spacing in between the elements by selecting the screen and adjusting the layout properties. Now I will add another text widget where we will type the address of the hotel. Let's customize also this text, but this time let's pick a different font. Let's also put this text inside the screen and keep adjusting if we need to. For example, I'll change the color to be like a gray color. Now I will add an icon widget, and I'll look for a location icon. And also make this icon like a gray. And adjust the size if I need to. I select the address and this icon, and I group them and put them in a row. I adjust the row to expand and the height to auto. I also adjust the order of the content to put the icon before the address. And I also change the spacing. Now I add another icon widget, and I'll keep it to be a star. And change the size. I make also this icon to be gray. And now I duplicate it and change the icon to be a filled star. And change the color to be yellow, like the buttons that I created before. I select both these new two icons and group them and put them in a row. I adjust the spacing. And now I reorder them and keep duplicating the yellow star. So now we have an indication of the reviews on the hotel. Now I duplicate the text widget, or I create a new text widget, and I write the reviews score. Select this number and the review star and group them in a row. And I adjust the sizing. I add another text inside this row where I write the number of the reviews that are on this hotel. And inside this row, I also add another icon. And I change it to be like a dash or a line, just to create a separation. I select the entire row and change the sizing to be expand. And now I select everything that I created now and group them in a column. I reorder the items if needed, and also change the spacing and the sizing. Now let's create this section of the app where we have the description of the hotel. Let's create a new text widget, change the sizing, and write description. I'll also change the font to match the one we used before and the size of the text. Now I add a new text widget and already adjust the sizing and add some placeholder text. I'll also change the font of this text and the size. I'll also change the color to be like a soft gray. Now I select both these new text widgets I created and I group them and put them in a column and reorganize them if I need to, and also adjust the spacing value. I also change again the spacing of the entire screen because I see that I need a little bit more spacing in between the description and the rest of the elements. Now let's design this section of the screen where we have the price and the call to action button. Let's start by adding a text widget where we write the price of the hotel. I'll change the size and the font of this text. Now I'll just duplicate this text and indicate that it's the price per night. I'll make this text a little bit smaller and gray and put them together in a row. Now I'll add another text widget and write the call to action text. I adjust the font and the style of the text as I want. Now I group this text and put it in a row. And I add a material wrapper. I also add a padding wrapper that I will put above the material wrapper. And I adjust the sizing of this button to be auto both for the width and the height. I center the content of this row, so the text will stay in the center. The material wrapper will let me customize this button as I want, like adding a background color. And I can also add some border radius. I group everything together in a row, center the content and change the spacing to be between. I select this new row and put it inside the screen. Now I add another wrapper. This time I'll use a container. And also a padding wrapper. I'll change the sizing of this row to be auto for the height and also expand for the width. I'll change the color of the container to be white. And I also changed the border radius. And I will also add a nice shadow. I'll adjust a little bit the padding to make it more balanced and retouch some of the details. Now let's design the section where we write what features the hotel can offer. Let's start by adding a text widget and write something like sauna. Let's change the font to match the rest of the design. Now let's add an icon widget. And change the icon to the one of a sauna. And let's adjust this icon as we like. For example, let's change the size. Now let's group everything together and put them in a row. Let's add a wrapper to this row. Let's select a container and also a padding wrapper. We can adjust the padding as we like. And also let's change the border radius in the container. We can also change the background color by modifying the container details panel. And also the color of the icon and the text. Now let's select this button that we just created and convert it into a component. We give it a name and create it. Now we can create parameters in this component, one for the text and one for the icon. Now we can copy and paste this component inside the screen. We duplicate it a couple of times and we put it in a row. Let's adjust the sizing of this row to be auto for the height and expand for the width. And we duplicate the component a few more times. Now we can select each copy, and because we create parameters, we can modify the icon and the text. Let's now select the row and change the spacing if we need. Now let's add a scroll view wrapper to the row that we just created. And change the direction to be horizontal. Now let's modify some of the details of the entire screen. For example, let's add a nice background color for the screen, and let's also change the background color of the app bar to match it. And now I will also change the color of the text. I will pick one that is similar to the colors of the image, so we create a nice consistent design. I will also change it, the exact same color also for the text in the app bar. To make it match, I will also change the colors of the call to action button that we designed before. And also the color on the feature button that we designed earlier. And because we created a component, we can modify the main component, and all the changes that we apply will be also applied to the copies that are in the screen, as you can see. Let's now design the second screen. Let's start by designing the card that shows the hotel. First of all, let's add a new screen using the screen tool. And let's copy and paste the app bar that we created before to make it faster. Let's also change the background color of the screen to match it with the other screen. Now let's change the text that we want to show in the screen. You can pick whatever you need. Now to create the card, let's start with the text widget and write the name of the hotel. Let's change the font to make it match with the design, and also the font size, as you like. Now let's copy and paste this text widget, and let's modify the font and also write the location of the hotel. And also make this text a little bit smaller. Now let's select both of them and group them in a column. Let's change the column height to be auto and also the width. Now let's add another text widget where we can write the numbers of rooms available in the hotel. We pick the same font that we used before. And now we select both of them and group them in a row. Let's adjust the spacing to be in between and also adjust the position of the items to be at the bottom. Now let's add an icon with an action that we want to have. For example, an heart button to indicate the favorite hotels. Let's group everything together in a column. And let's also add a container as a wrapper and the padding as a wrapper. Let's change the sizing of this column. And now we can add again the image of the hotel as the background. That will act as the background of the card. And we can also modify the border radius. With the padding wrapper that we added before, we can add some spacing in between the content of the card and the border of the card. Now let's modify the colors of the items inside the card. For example, let's make the icon yellow like the other icons, and the text we make it white so we can read it easier. Now let's select the card again and add another container as a wrapper. And let's bring it above the container with the image. Let's match the border radius value of this container like the one below it and fill it with a linear gradient. Let's make this gradient fade from black to a transparent color. So now we can position it in the card to make sure that the text is a little bit more readable with the image as the background. Now we can select this card and turn it into a component. We can give it a name and create it. Now we duplicate it and we put it inside the screen. Let's change the orientation of the screen to be a column, to be vertical. And now let's duplicate the card a couple of times, select them and put them in a column. Let's adjust the sizing of the column to fill the entire screen. And also the sizing of the cards inside to expand with the width of the screen. As we can see, the items are not responsive inside the card, so we select the main component and change the spacing between the text to be expand. Now we select the column with the cards inside and adjust the spacing as we like. And let's also add a padding wrapper around the screen. Now we're just adjusting the sizing of the card, so we pick a height that we like. And now we can duplicate it a few more times. Let's add the scroll view wrapper in the column with the cards inside and keep the direction to be vertical. Now let's select the main component and let's create parameters for the URL of the image. So now we can select the cards inside the screen and put different images inside the different cards by simply copy and pasting different URLs from different images inside the details panel of the cards. The last one is a bit difficult to access, so we can do it from the details panel of the column. Now let's design the search bar at the top of the screen. Let's add a text field widget and put it inside the screen. Let's change the sizing to be auto for the height and expand for the width. Let's change the spacing of the entire screen, so we create some separation in between the cards and the text field. Now let's select the text field and let's add a decoration. Here we can customize the design of the text field as we like. For example, we can choose a fill color. And let's also add a label text and also a label style. Let's pick the font that we used before. Now let's add a prefix icon that we can pick, and we can choose a search icon. Let's modify the color and let's pick the same color that we used for the other icons. Let's keep modifying the text field. For example, let's add an enable border. I usually like to add a little bit of radius to make the design look a little bit more modern. And let's also customize the focus border. Let's make it yellow to match the rest of the design. Now let's modify the style of the text that will be the text in the input in the text field. Now, as the last step, usually I like to make sure that the designs are responsive by resizing the screen. In this screen, for example, I can see that the description is not responsive, so I'll select it and change it to expand. Also, the content of the column, I'll change them to expand. And now they will adjust with the size of the screen. Thank you for watching this video. Now you know how to design an hotel booking app in Nowa. Stay tuned for the next tutorials, and I will see you in the next video.